Well, hello there, everybody. I'm going to show you a really slick workaround for your GM truck and alternator charging system. I use this truck for all kinds of things, and you can see I've got the bracket. I plow with this truck, and you can do everything and anything to try and keep your batteries charged when you're plowing. But it's a challenge at the best of times. I have two batteries. I have one there. I've got a separate video I showed how I put the other battery over there, and they're wired together here. In any case, the old alternators, pre-2006, were usually a 4-wire alternator. They had the pin with 4 wires on it. The new ones have 2. How the new alternators work is when you start your truck, the computer through this cable is communicating with the alternator, and the computer checks the battery when you start and then follows a path for maintaining the battery based on what it measured when the truck started, and next time you start it, it does the same thing. However, when you're plowing, the hydraulic pump on the plow, this solenoid is what's activating the hydraulic pump. Every time you lift the blade or turn the blade, it's drawing almost as much current out of your batteries as starting the vehicle, and it's very problematic. And so by the time you shut your vehicle off, your batteries aren't charged again. You've sucked so much out of them. If it's 20 or 30 below, you're going to freeze your batteries unless you put a battery charger on it immediately and top them up from what you've lost. And the newer alternators, what happens is you start the truck, it does what it says it needs to do to put back in the battery what it took out, and then even though I'm using the plow and working the truck, the alternator still won't output more to keep the voltage high and charging because I'm drawing. So again, these alternators communicate with the computer, and the computer sends what we call a pulse width modulated signal. And so what it does is it's a 5-volt signal, and 128 hertz pulse, and the wider the pulse increases the duty cycle of the alternator, so you can charge up to 15 volts if you want to. But it generally, 10 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes after you start, that alternator is only outputting about 13 and a bit volts. So it's not charging, it's just maintaining. So what I've done here is, this is a little box. This is available on eBay, possibly other places. This is a pulse width modulator that runs on just about any voltage. So you can set the frequency, and I've set it at 128 hertz, very simple, just with these buttons up and down. You see I can change the frequency, but 128 hertz is what these trucks want. So I've set it at 128, and then the duty cycle I've set at 56%. You can see over there with those buttons I can change the duty cycle. So to communicate with the computer, it needs to be based on a 5-volt signal. So I take 12 volts from the battery and I feed it into this. So this is right now set, it's set at 5.1. There's an in and an out. This is a DC to DC converter. So I'm putting 12 volts in, I'm getting 5 volts out. The 5 volts is feeding the pulse width modulator. And this pulse width modulator has little terminal screws on the back. So the red and the black wires are the power, the 5 volts coming in from this little power supply. And the green and the white are signals out to the alternator. So the green is just ground to the truck system. The white is going to what they call the L terminal on the alternator. And that is, when you're looking at it from the front, it's the right-hand terminal. There's 2 terminals in there. So I'm just clipped onto the right-hand terminal. Now, I'm going to start the truck, and it's pretty incredible. You're going to see what I can do now with the alternator and how I can increase its output. So when I'm plowing, I can have that alternator outputting close to its maximum capacity and operating my plow and keeping the battery charged so that it's not dead. So I'm going to pause here and I'll set this camera up so you can see. Okay, so you can see my voltmeter here. So we're at 13.5 volts. Now, again, with this basic setup, I'm going to increase the duty cycle. So I'm at 56%, and I'm going to give it one click. Notice, almost 13.6, 2 clicks. I'm going to go up to 65%. 65%, now the alternator is outputting 14 volts, which you can't get it to do once it assumes that it's already put back what the start took out of it. So I'm working my plow now, and I want this thing to be outputting and trying to hold the battery, trying to feed the plow. So here I'm going to go up to a duty cycle of 88%. Now I'm outputting 14.9 volts. This is going to essentially power the best part of the plowing cycle. It's not going to be drawing from the battery. So as you can see, 15.1 volts. This is a voltage that your alternator will reach on its own when you first start, or if you reset the battery, disconnect and reconnect, and it'll try to top off and equalize your batteries. So a voltage like this when I'm plowing is unheard of without a manual way to do it. This will solve so many problems. So I'm going to put it back down here to, you probably can't see the actual percentage, but I'm going to put it back down to 65%. 65% now is, actually I'll bring it up so you can see. 65% is showing us 14 volts. And again, as I increase this percentage, see if you can see this here. I get the two of them in there. Yeah, I can. Okay, so now I'm going to increase, and you'll see it go up. 66, 67. You can see how the voltage the alternator is outputting is increasing. It's a fantastic system. These alternators are incredibly useful if you understand how you can work them around what the computer wants to do. So anyway, I'm going to shut this off and come back and talk about it. So, what I'm going to do now is take this, I'm going to mount this little 5-volt circuit board behind the pulse width modulator, and I'm going to mount it on my dash, and I'll have it set. I may even put a good voltmeter, a digital voltmeter beside it, and when I'm plowing, I'm going to be able to set this thing at whatever I want. And it's going to be like night and day. My battery should survive, and I shouldn't have to sit and let the truck run for half an hour or put it on a charger every time I'm done. So anyway, I'm going to come back and show you this when I'm done, and I'll include links for the voltage converter and the PWM. By the way, these things are peanuts. I think this was $20 or $30, the pulse width modulator, and I believe the voltage converters are like $10 or something. So nothing here is expensive, and it's actually very simple to do. Anyway, I hope you find this useful, but I will be back. So I've put things together. So there's the pulse width modulator, and there's the power supply. So all I did was I used some 3M double-sided adhesive tape. Had to put a couple layers on it just to make it thick enough to stick. So this is going to slide in now inside a pocket in the already existing pocket in the dash. And the wires are going to feed out. So the wires that are coming out is a battery plus 12 volts switched with the ignition, a ground, and the white wire is going to be connecting to that alternator pin. So I have to run one wire through the firewall to get to the alternator. Here we are, complete. I ran the wire through the firewall there. I had to make a hole, or I used a hole that for my plow harness when I put that in. So the alternator, I'm hooked up to the right pin. On my alternator, the right pin is a brown wire, and I've actually cut the brown wire because I'm not using it anymore, but I cut it in a place that I could resplice it if I want. So the computer doesn't command the alternator now. My PWM module commands the alternator. So we're going to go in the truck and start it and check this out. Okay, so there's the unit. I'll make it look nice after. Start the truck, and I'm going to show you here now. There's the alternator. I'm set at 64%, and it looks like it's somewhere 13.5 or whatever volts. Now, as I'm just sitting here, I'm going to start increasing. I just put it up to 72%. You can see the needle now is at 14, maybe slightly above. Now I'll go up to 85%. You can see the needle on my alternator climbing. And the beauty of this is, it doesn't take the high RPMs to get it to output this higher levels of voltage, which in turn relates to current. So now I'll put it right up to 90%. So now I'm at about 15 volts or slightly over 15 volts. This will be absolutely fantastic for plowing. So I have it sitting right here in the pocket, and it's all wired in, and it works just fantastic. I'm very happy with it. So I'll drop it back down to about 70%. And if we look now, I'm over 14 volts, probably about 14.2, 14.3. And I'll fine tune this. So the beauty of this system is our older trucks had a 4-wire alternator, or some of them even just were still a 2-pin alternator, but they had the regulator inside the alternator, and it was set. So your car, when the vehicle was running, it was always charging your battery at about 14.4 volts. That was the standard voltage for charging when you were driving, and trying to put back what you took out. And that worked much better for plowing. However, this is going to be fantastic, and I'm really interested to try the plow out now, because I think now when I drive out to my camp to plow, it's about a half-hour drive. Takes me a good 30 minutes plowing. I really strain the batteries, and I have 2 of them. By the time I get home, they're not even begun to charge, because the computer would keep the alternator around 13.2, 13.4, which was doing nothing. So anyway, there we go. So here's the unit in the truck as I'm about to install it. And again, lit up 5 volts, circuit board, double-sided adhesive to the back of it. And it's going to slide right in here and sit like this. And I'm going to just put the glue gun. Having difficulty, double-sided adhesive won't stick to this plastic. So I'm going to try use the glue gun and see if it'll hold it. Oh, we are done. And there you have it, my 2006 GMC Sierra with a fully controllable alternator module installed there. And I can't wait to try this out when I'm plowing. It should be night and day. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video or found it useful, please give it a like and comment. Don't hesitate to subscribe. It helps me out. Thanks a lot.